Hello, welcome to part three. Martin, Malcolm, me. Um, so the reason I'm putting these out is because today we celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Today is January 18th. I am a little behind, so this is an easy subject for me. Um, I grew up fascinated with Martin Luther King, absolutely fascinated. And black culture because I was born in New York where I was around black people. And then when we were five, we moved out here where I rarely saw black people until I got into college and thankfully met a lot of my black friends during that time in my early 20s. Um, and fortunately, just ended up meeting a lot of very wonderful, diverse, intelligent people. And thankfully, they still remain my friends, even though I can be an idiot sometimes. So thank you, thank you, life, for how it turned out so far. So my experience with I guess you could call it civil rights at this point. I was born in 1967. In April of 1968, Martin Luther King was shot dead in Memphis, Tennessee. My mom was really good about showing me and telling me, even as a young person, how lucky I am to be white, how lucky I am to be male, and how lucky I am to be American. And so I don't take these things for granted, even though to some people it may seem that I do. My family was, guess the best way to describe them is neoliberals. They were into nudism. They were, we had friends that smoked pot. My parents didn't really get into that. This is my mom and my stepdad at this point. My mom and my father were divorced when I was like 7 in 1974. So a year later, my mom was with my stepdad. We moved to the suburbs in 1975. So they had a very different lifestyle. But we also went to protests. We didn't go to there weren't a lot of like civil rights type of protests here in Denver. We didn't go to those, but we went to like Save the Seals, Save the Whales, anti-nuclear stuff back as the 80s came in. So we did that. We were part of the Unitarian Church, and they're into social justice and social activism, so that was cool. So that's kind of what built me into the person I am. Now, I'm not a super activist myself. I've tried to do things when they were right. So, but some of my background is interesting in this area. You may have seen a couple videos ago. I did a two-parter about my friend that was a half black skinhead. Weird stuff, right? And it's very bizarre because he would give me a hard time about being such a liberal. It, like I said, that's one of the friends you cut loose. Kids out there, you kids out there, if you have a friend that sucks, get rid of him because he's not going to help you out. Okay, so there's my little lesson to the kids, even though this video is specifically not for children. Let's continue. So I'm living downtown in 1991. I'm going to school at Metro. I live about a block away from the Capitol at 16th and Logan. Great old building called Grosvenor Arms. I lived there from 88 to 93, and I worked down at the Tivoli 12 Multiplex Theater. And I went to Metro and got through college and learned so much. It was a great time. It's a great time. You have all this energy from ages 20 to 25 to figure yourself out, to have fun, to fill your brain in college and work at the same time and live on your own. It was a great time for me. So 1991 rolls around. It is April 20th. It's the spring. So many of you know what April 20th means. Unfortunately, it is Hitler's birthday. So it was 1991, so it was Hitler's 102nd birthday, and a bunch of idiots, when I say idiots, I mean Aryans, white supremacists, and Klansmen, decided they were going to go up to the steps of the Capitol and have their little speeches and their little rally. There were about 60 of them. And what they didn't expect was a bunch of us to show up, and I didn't even know about it. My friends just came by and go, "Hey man, there's a bunch of fucking Klan idiots on the steps of the Capitol, and there are a bunch of people counter protesting. Let's go do that." It's like, yeah, I got nothing to do, so we go up there. It was really my first real protest outside of, like, I hadn't been in one for years. Was totally impromptu, and my friends just found out about it. You got to understand, in 1991. I still had a rotary phone. I mean, they had to come by my home and get me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's do this." Go over there, and once again, so you guys know, the history. You know what we've seen in 2020 with BLM, the cops, and the recent protests on the coup attempt at the Capitol. Who the cops will support? the white people every fucking time. So they tried to. It was really a crazy scene. A couple of these Klansmen come in on horses because it's 1865 apparently instead of 1991. The cops, there are a couple cops on horses trying to get them to, trying to steer them from the east side of the Capitol to the west side, where where the main steps are and the statue is and everything happens. And all these people wedge themselves, these counter protesters wedge themselves and force them all the way down to Colfax and Broadway, and they didn't quite beat people back, but they had to like force people back and get these idiots to the steps where they were safe. Um, and they did their little speech. The guy's name that organized things back then was Sean Slater. Um, hateful dipshit, somewhat articulate. They follow those guys. So he gave his speech. We mostly shouted over it. The media was there, and no violence occurred that I saw. Um, we chanted at them. And the funniest part, and it's always weird for me to say this, but it was really fun. Once again, it was like BLM. Mostly white people, but also a strong showing of black people. Mostly white people were there to counter protest, but there's a pocket of black guys, and they started chanting "white niggers," and we all joined them. And you want to see some angry Klans people? Call them a white nigger. Holy shit! It was just funny watching them just all on the steps of the Capitol. Oh, they're losing their minds. It was beautiful, and they couldn't do shit about it because they were outnumbered 10-1 at that point. There were about 600 of us and 60 of them. Beautiful thing. Fast forward to the following year. This is when things got ugly. Frankly, thankfully, I wasn't there, but I could hear it because, like I said, I was a block away from the Capitol, and this time, and this is just a horrific thing to happen, and really a failing at the hands of our local government. There are rights, and then there are things that are just stupid, where you make a horrible decision and don't think it through. This time, the Klan and those other idiots, and I don't even think Proud Boys were a thing back then. They were basically called themselves Aryan Nations or Aryan Brotherhood and such. They decided they were going to protest on January 15th, the day of Martin Luther King Day, and that's where the parade ends. Is at the steps of the Capitol. At least it did back then. So, gee, I wonder what's going to happen. Holy shit. And here's what happened. The usual. For the most part, people told them to screw off and went home. Some people stayed, and which is kind of a reasonable expectation. Some people were pissed, and things got violent, and these guys got away once again. Oh, by the way, in 1991, so this is 1992, Martin Luther King Day when this happened. So, but both times there's like a secret passageway underneath the Capitol. Most Capitol buildings have this, to protect, legislators. But in this case, they're protecting fucking idiots, Klansmen and such. And they got them out via some bus out. They went under the building, shuffled them into a bus on the east side where nobody knew about it, and got them out of there. And then, what? Black people are all pissed off and being a little crazy, and now we're going to start arresting people. It's ridiculous, but it's what happens. And now, actually, that was their blueprint for a while in the 90s and the early 2000s. Is they would have protests, get people riled up, get out of there safely, and then made black people and white people look bad that were violently protesting because they had their rights protected, to spew hate, and which is frankly against the Constitution. It's insightful. Anyway, to finish up. This was very ugly. 1992, Martin Luther King Day. Riots started. A police car was overturned. Many people were injured. Of course, a lot of black people in this riot got upset with any white person. One girl got stomped out, and she wasn't even one of the Nazis. The Nazis were all moved out of there. It was very ugly. A lot of damage was done. My only personal interaction with it was I was like a block away. I had no idea what was going on, but I could hear helicopters flying over like it was a fucking war zone. I saw the footage the next day. Walked down there the next day. I was just like, Jesus. It looked like right after BLM happened, which, frankly, BLM and the vandalism, I get it. Not thrilled with it. But if you expect a bunch of people that are wronged time and time again to just sit there and take it and not act out, you're being ridiculous. And by the way, most of that I've been to 4 protests, and I know I thought I'd say what you can do. Um, I'm not going to preach because I'm out of time. But what I've done is this past year is I've gone to 4 protests. I have not seen any of the black people at these protests do anything in terms of vandalism or violence. I have seen what I would call Antifa kids, if you want to call them that, the young white skinny kids that are probably picked on in high school, dressed in black with helmets and sometimes those batons that extend. I've seen some vandalism. I've seen some breaking of windows. I've seen some spray painting. That's what I've seen in my experience of the 4 protests I went to. Um, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the 3-part series. It's a lot. I mean, I could probably talk for hours on the subject, but I've already talked 31 minutes. Thank you for your time. Average Guy Opinions. This has been John Corelli, and I'll see you next time with another missive. Thank you so much. Bye.